Welcome to this module number 1 of a passive income fast start. On the outset, let me say I'm extremely excited to be sharing this content with you. And well done to each and every one of you that signed up for this class. I think when you completed the class and you look back at this very first call, you're going to say to yourself, wow, it's quite important that I've done it, and it's helped me to look at things vastly differently to how I've looked at things in the past. You see, there's so many factors all around the world that doesn't matter where you stay, whether you're in South Africa or Europe or America or Asia, it doesn't matter. The money game all around the world is designed for you not to win, and it's designed for you to remain where you are financially and just be working harder and harder and harder overall. And of course, keep on paying more and more and more taxes and essentially just be a slave to the system. That's unfortunately and sadly how the system is generated and created. Now, you might not be where you want to be financially. And when you look back at your working career up until now, you might be a little bit despondent around the lack of financial progress. And you might even say to yourself, well, I didn't make the grade, but why? I've worked very hard. Surely I also deserve the opportunity, whatever the case might be. But the problem is the system is simply not designed for you to win. So what does that mean? Well, we'll find out in a few moments. But for right now, let me just first and foremostly give you guys all a very, very warm welcome. Well done to taking up this program. And I'm looking forward to tracking your success and your progress throughout this next couple of days that we're going to be spending together with one another. I also want to urge you to carefully make your notes and have a pen and paper ready and make as much as possible notes as you possibly can, because I can assure you, over the last 20 odd years that I've been teaching these principles to people all around the world in many different shapes and forms, bottom line is it will make a massive difference in your life if you apply it. The bottom line is, if I were to say knowledge is power, you will probably agree with me. But the truth of the matter is knowledge is useless. It is all about applied knowledge that will make the difference in your life. And sometimes there's even a factor of that what we believe to be true is simply not true. However, we don't even know that it's not true. So this course will also get you to realize the real truth underlying and why it is that you are where you are financially, and why it is that essentially you're not making a huge amount of progress on your financial journey. So for that purpose, I also encourage you to have an open mind and an open heart and be open. Don't believe a word I say. Just simply evaluate your reality and that what you can experience in your life every single day, and simply look for the logic and decide for yourself. But you're not in a position to make a meaningful decision how to restructure and reorganize the rest of your life unless you're going to make a lot of notes and apply each and every section as we go along. So I cannot encourage you enough to make sure that you first and foremostly make as many notes as you possibly can and work with the information and do the exercises as we go along. I'm pretty sure it will have a massive difference in your life. At the same time, seeing that we're going to be spending some time together over the next 2 weeks, as you know, the whole course consists of 12 modules. So as we go along for the next 12 modules, it's, I guess, also important for you to, and for me to get to know one another a little bit. So I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit of my background. First and foremostly, I'm South African by birth. I was born and bred in Johannesburg, South Africa. I grew up in the East Rand and went to school for some portion and left school at a very early age and then did my national service. After my national service, I continued all my various business ventures. Now, I left school at a very early age simply because even at school, I was doing some of the other form of business for the biggest part of certainly my high school career, and certainly the later years of primary school. I was always hustling and doing a bunch of things to get extra money. And over the years, I then decided school is just an absolute waste of time. As soon as it became legally possible, I left school and pursued whatever it is that I wanted to do, working for myself, opposed to being a slave of a system. The reason why, I saw both my parents, both of them had one of these so-called good jobs, but as much as both of my parents had one of these good job things, there was never adequate finances. It was always a bit of a struggle. And I could never understand why such a good job doesn't come with a financial reward. Why is it that a good job is so important and it's so viable and it's all these things that they tell you, but in the reality, there's no real financial benefit. So anyway, I then left school and did my national service, and after that proceeded with my business career, and eventually made quite a bit of progress. At the same time, I also later in years decided to get into property investments. And at that point, I was already financially free. And at that point, I started first investing in property, but very quickly I came to realize that even property investment is in a way rigged. In a way, it is just an illusion that anybody can do properties. And the reason why I say it is over the years, I became pretty good at property. I made it my business to learn how to become a property investor, and I did incredibly well. But it took a lot of learning. I had to travel to the US many a times and go and learn from the likes of Robert Kiyosaki and many others to find out what it is that they're doing. And even then, with all that knowledge, I eventually realized that I needed to develop models that's unique to me. Those modules are based on what I've learned from the likes of Robert Kiyosaki and many others. I've applied and worked with him, and eventually learned a bit deeper, done my own research, did my own delving, did my own work, and eventually started developing financially distressed property models that were insanely successful. And the reason for it being is that I had something that was very unique. I then started teaching it to many of the Rich Dad students all around the world. And I've had the privilege to speak with Robert Kiyosaki and many others, Sir Richard Branson and many others that you might have heard of, all around the world on public stages, teaching and educating around financial skills. One thing I became profoundly aware of is the overwhelming majority of people will never ever change their financial outcome. It doesn't matter what programs they get into and what programs they don't get into, because the system is so rigged for them not to win and not to break out of a system. It is incredibly hard to break out of a system. So I started developing a system that people can follow. And that's ultimately what this program is about. It's about a system that will allow each and everybody to break out of a vicious circle and start creating and start working towards their own financial outcome that they're looking for. Before I go further into this, I want to first share with you a couple of basic principles around why I say the system is so rigged, and it's a system that we can't beat in the normal conventional way. Because from a very early age at school, we hear over and over and over again how important it is to study hard at school, get some good marks, and because you got these good marks, you can go to university or college, and then eventually one day get yourself a good job. However, if I look at the last 20 years of doing seminars all around the world, I'm always, whenever I come off the stage, There's always a bunch of people waiting for me. And all of these people, by and large, is always either actively still got one of these good job things, or alternatively, they at the end of their working career and they don't understand where's the financial reward. So I want to share with you a little bit of background, why it is and what is the problem and where those problems come in, so that you can understand a little bit about what it is that you can do to change the rest of your life financially. So I want to immediately move forward and start sharing my screen and share with you some ideas that will allow you to make the differences in your life that you deserve and start creating the financial outcome that you're looking for. It's all about living that life of choice, being able to do whatever it is that you want to do, spend time with your loved ones, and do essentially every day, wake up and ask yourself, what do I feel like doing today? Before I get going in a major way, I've got to also really just quickly share with you a disclaimer. And today's day and age, obviously, it's very important that I do this, so forgive me. But I got to highlight that Work Your Wealth is not a financial advisor and does not provide or accept any responsibility, and certainly is not providing any form of financial advice nor any form of financial offering of any sort. All of your financial decisions is based on information that you're going to be learning, but you must do their own due diligence. This presentation is not to be constituted as financial advice and should not be taken as such. It's not intended as financial advice. It is merely educational. Each and every component of this entire class, all 12 modules, all of Work Your Wealth coaching team, all of Work Your Wealth's employees, as well as myself, is merely based on education and nothing else. There is absolutely zero financial advice, nor any financial service of any sort or any size or any shape. You can familiarize yourself with this disclaimer, and please note that we do not provide any form of financial advice. It is purely educational. That being said, and that out the way, let's quickly first talk about Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. You will know, for those of you that read his book, there's 4 ways in which we can make money legally. The first one is the employment quadrant, and you have a job. But the problem with this employment quadrant, you only get paid for the time that you put in yourself and, of course, for your skill. There's really no leverage. And then, of course, the second quadrant is the self-employment quadrant. In many cases, it is people that eventually from the employment quadrant transition into the self-employed quadrant. In most cases, it is people that's had a job for many years or some years and eventually either lose their job or alternatively become disgruntled with the idea. And invariably, they decide to start working for themselves and create the financial benefits that they're looking for themselves as a self-employed quadrant. However, the problem with a self-employment quadrant is still, you just simply own a job, because in the end, you're still exchanging time for money and you're exchanging skill for money. There's no chance that it can become passive at any point in time. We also see, and over the years that I've been doing the seminars, in the self-employment quadrant, there's also many professionals like lawyers, dentists, accountants, and so on. I know on today's call, we got quite a few that is in the self-employed quadrant. People like Manol, that's from the medical profession, that's in the self-employment quadrant, and it's still essentially, although they're earning big money or big amounts or big figures on an hourly basis based on their medical skill, fact of the matter is it still comes down to exchange of time for money. The next quadrant we can talk about is the business owner quadrant. This is where you own a business, but You know, over the years that I've been in this industry and I talk to people, people say to me, but I'm a business owner. And immediately I ask them, or I say to them, fantastic, so you're a business owner. Tell me, this business of yours, for how long can it run on its own without you going into the business on a daily or weekly basis? And for how long can the business sustain itself without you playing any form of active role on the business? And then invariably, they look at me a bit strange and a bit bewildered, if I may. And they say, no, I still got to do this and this in the business. Well, if that's the case, then you don't own a business. You essentially own a job as well. To me, a business owner is somebody that owns the business, but never ever have to do any form of active work inside the business. If you are truly a business owner, the business and the system that's built within the business will continue to run and produce a predictable outcome, regardless of how long you're away from the business, whether you're away for 6 months or 12 months or 24 months, it does not matter. The business will continue to produce a predictable outcome. Mostly, I want to talk today about the investor quadrant. This is where you own investments, and those investments are working for you 24/7. Those investments are doing the hard push-ups for you to make the money that you're looking for and achieve the financial growth that you're looking for. Over the years, as I do the seminars, many people that I come across define themselves as an investor. But when I start chatting to them after the seminar, only to find out that they put money into savings accounts or retirement annuities or the likes, or conventional financial products of sorts. That's barely what I define as an investor. I talk about investment where you're actively building a property portfolio. And there I'm not referring to the house where you live. I'm talking about investment properties and other asset classes where these asset classes where you are in control of these investments and you determine the outcome of these investments without you exchanging time or skill to run these investments, but it's purely based on leverage and, of course, compounding. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on over these 12 modules. Of course, as you can see here on the next slide, I'm saying here, time is money, but money can't buy time. And that is such an important thing, because all around the world, doesn't matter where I go, people are forever caught up in the hamster wheel, whether they're self-employed, whether they got a job, or whether they're a small business owner. In most cases, they got to continuously keep on spinning that hamster wheel and keep on providing the activity, keep on providing the skill, keep on providing the solution. There's no point where the solution or service that they offer becomes, I don't know, of a compounding nature, where you provide the service or the skill or the product once off, but it keeps on paying you day in and day out and day in and day out and week in and week out and month in and month out. You see, it is so important to understand the power of residual income. Most people are just spinning this hamster wheel with no hope of ever getting off this vicious hamster wheel circle. People exchange time for money, and I call it hours for dollars. Right now, I would like to call on each and every one of you to think about how much money do you earn per month? What is the amount of money that you earn each and every month on average if you are self-employed or you're a business owner? Put the average amount of money that you on an average month would earn. Put that amount of money in your mind and that's one way of thinking about how much money you earn. But there's another way. Remember, I said on the outset that not being where you want to be financially is not necessarily your fault, because we all bought into this idea and this system where we in some or the other shape or form are obligated almost to exchange time for money and skill for money. That's how the system is designed, but that's also how the system keeps on working against us. I want you to humor me and think about it slightly differently. Keep in your mind the amount of money that you're earning per month, as I asked you to do. But then let's do another mathematical equation. Firstly, think about the amount of hours that you work in a day. Do you work 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 6 hours a day, whatever it is? Think about the amount of hours that you work each and every day. And then, of course, you just simply multiply the amount of hours that you work per day by the amount of days that you work in a week. So if you work 5 days, you'll multiply it by 5. If you work 5.5 days, in other words, you work part-time on Saturday or part-time Saturday and Sunday, whatever the case is. So simply multiply it by the amount of days that you work in a week so that you can come up with a total amount of hours that you work in an average week. Then, of course, we take that total amount of hours that you work in a week and we simply multiply it by 52. The reason why 52, obviously, so that we can get to the amount of hours that you actually work in a year, January to December, so that we can come up with a figure of how many hours of your life has gone into each and every calendar year on average. The idea is then to think of your first job. Whenever you left college or school or university, whatever it is, and you started this full-time career thing, from that year until now, how many years have you worked? Is it 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever the case might be? Multiply that by the amount of hours that you work in a calendar year. This will give you the grand amount of total hours that you've worked from start until now. You might be wondering why I would want you to work this out. The reason is, by the time I'm done, you're going to see why it is that the wealthy are getting more wealthy, or the rich is getting richer, and the poor is getting poorer proportionately. You'll understand. So, but for you to get to a point of understanding, it is crucial that you have a careful note and a careful calculation of how many hours you work per day, multiply by the amount of days that you work in a week, multiply by the amount of hours per week, and then, of course, 52 weeks in a year, and that then multiplied by the amount of years that you've worked, so that you can come up with a grand total of hours worked. So do me a favor and work this out, because it is essential that we complete this before I move on to the next section. So I'm going to give you a few seconds just to complete the exercise so that you know exactly how many hours you work on average from when you started until now. So please go ahead and work that out real quick. Assuming you've done it by now, this is why I wanted you to do it. I want you to also now that you've worked out how many hours you've worked from when you started your career until now, obviously over the years, you've accumulated certain amount of assets in a, you know, through working for it. You might own a motor vehicle that you paid off. You might own a home, some furniture, appliances, whatever it is. You have collected a certain amount of assets over the years. The trick now is to ascertain what is that asset value minus liability value, that giving you your net asset value. But let's start first with the assets. So let's make a note of your asset value as it stands. We will start firstly with your fixed assets. Think of a property where you live. If you own this property, how much can you sell this property for today on a very realistic basis? What is the value? Will you be able to sell it for, I don't know, $100,000, $500,000? $50,000, whatever the case might be. Think of how much this property is worth and what is the realistic, and key emphasis on the word choice, realistic value of this property. I know all of us love our homes very much, and invariably, for the most part of people, we all think our property is worth so much more than what it really is. So don't fall in that trap. Rather do the realistic value. If you were to sell this property today, it's no point if your property is only worth, I don't know, $500,000. It's no point in you thinking and pretending that your property is worth $1 million, but in reality, nobody will pay you $1 million for your property. They'll only pay you $500,000, which then obviously means your property is worth only $500,000. So think of the amount of value or the amount of money that you can sell your property for today. Of course, if you own multiple properties, then simply work it out pro rata. So again, don't worry about the mortgages that you have right now. Just think of the total value of your property or properties that you might own and come up with a grand total of all of your properties combined. If you were to sell each and every one of them, how much money can you sell it for on a very realistic basis? Once you've done that, we'll move on to a next point, and that is your movable assets. This will be your motor vehicle. Maybe you've got a car, maybe you've got a scooter, maybe you've got a trailer, maybe you've got a caravan or a boat. Any form of vehicle of any sort or size or shape or form. How much can you sell that vehicle for today? Again, on a very realistic basis. Again, forget about the money that you owe on the vehicle. Just put down a monetary value. If you were to sell it, how much can you sell it for? Likewise, you might own some furniture, appliances, and so on. From your lounge suite to your dining room suite, to your TV, to your cell phone, to your computer. If you were to take each and every one of your assets and sell it on a very realistic basis, how much can you sell it for on a fair and square, realistic market value basis? How much, if you were to sell all of them, each and every asset, how much money can you put in your pocket right now if you were to sell it at a realistic? Put a combined list or a combined value to all of your loose assets or movable assets, including appliances, including motor vehicles. Once you've done that, let's also do a note of your paper assets. Paper assets could mean one of many things. It could be the money that you have in your bank account. Maybe you've got a couple of bank accounts even. If you were to close each and every one of those bank accounts, how much cash will you walk away if you close each and every one of those bank accounts? Maybe you own some long-term investment with some of the other fund. Maybe you own some shares in some of the other public listed company. Perhaps you have paper assets in the form of retirement fund that you're saving up for. Any form or policies, endowment policies, retirement annuity policies, any form of conventional financial product that you are saving into every single month. If you were to cash in on those products today, how much will you cash in on? When I talk about shares that you own in a public company, it is so easy to think of the future expectation value. Don't think of that value. Think of a fair and square value. If you were to sell those shares today, how much can you sell it for? Likewise, with your long-term investments, we all hope that our investments will pay us a lot of money in 10 or 20 or 30 years, whatever. But if you were to cash in on those assets today, how much money will you sit with if you were to cash in today? Especially when it comes to your pension fund. If you were to imagine for a moment, you were to resign your job and you were to cash in on your pension, how much cash will you cash in? How much will your pension pay out if you were to cash in on your pension today? What is the real realistic value of each and every one of your paper assets, from the money in your bank account to your retirement annuity, to your long-term savings accounts that you have. Maybe you got some money in the money market or some of the other bank fund of sorts, or perhaps it's just your pension or your retirement annuity or even an endowment policy. Whatever it is, how much money can you cash in if you were to cancel those products right now, today? And again, I'm not saying you should cancel them today. I'm merely asking, if you were to cash in today, how much money will you cash in on? Put a total figure there to all your paper assets. Once you've done that, let's talk for a moment about other assets. Other assets could be, maybe you own a business, maybe you own an engineering shop, or maybe a workshop of sorts, or maybe you own an accounting practice, or a dentistry appointment practice, or a health practice of sorts. Maybe you're a general practitioner doctor. Maybe you're a lawyer that owns your own practice. Maybe you own an accounting firm or a tax accounting service, whatever it is. Maybe you even own some digital assets such as Bitcoin, such as Ethereum, whatever the case might be. If you were to sell, let's say first and foremostly, you own a practice of sorts. Let's say you were to sell your practice, whether you're a GP or a medical professional of sorts or a dentist, whatever. If you were to sell your practice today, how much money can you sell it for realistically? I know when it comes to talking about our own business, all of us as entrepreneurs place way more value on our business than sometimes in what it realistically is worth. So I urge you to come up with a realistic value. If you were to sell this practice, how much will somebody else be willing to pay you for this practice? And how much do you think realistically can you get as a result of selling your business? Whether it's a workshop, whether it's a car dealership, whether it's a legal practice or a medical practice of sorts, it doesn't matter. Or even some Bitcoin. Don't work on the future value of Bitcoin. Work on the value as it stands today. And how much can you sell it for? And write down how much you can sell it for. This will take you to your total asset value. This should now be a combination figure of all of your fixed assets, all of your movable assets, all of your appliances, all of your paper assets, any form of other asset that we might have not even mentioned. If you were to put a realistic value on each and every one of those items, what would you say is the true fair asset value that you've accumulated from when you started working until now? Come up with a total, a grand total of asset value from when you started this process of this wealth journey, from your very first job until now. How much assets have you successfully accumulated from start until now? I'll give you a moment and then we'll move on to the next section. So please make sure you got a list of all of your asset values. And most importantly, a grand total of your asset value. I trust by now you got a grand total of figure there. And of course, tomorrow when you're working with your coach, obviously your coach is going to guide and help you to come up with a fair figure realistically. And then of course your liabilities. Now, if you were to first start with your properties that you own, the house where you stay, and all of your investment properties, if you got loans over those properties, how much capital do you need in order to settle each and every one of those loans so that you're 100% debt free, so that you got zero loans of any sort or any shape or any form? How much capital is needed I'm specifically not referring to your monthly installment. I'm specifically referring to the capital amount. So for you to settle your home loan and all your properties that you invest in, your investment properties, your rental portfolio, if you were to settle those loans, how much capital is needed in order to settle each and every one of those loans? Again, if you don't know the amount, I would also urge you to contact your bank and contact the lender and get an exact handle on how much you realistically need to come up with capital-wise if you were to settle those loans. For a moment, pretend you won the some or the other lottery of sorts, and you now got millions and millions and millions available to you. How much of those millions needs to be paid off in order to settle all of your home loans, all the different home loans? How much needs to be going towards that so that you can be bond free and you don't own any money on your bonds? Come up with that figure of all of your properties combined. Likewise, any of your car loans that you might have, that lovely motor vehicle that you like so much, how much do you need in order to settle? Again, I'm not talking about the car installment. I'm talking about closing the car loan account. How much do you need to settle the car? How much do you need to settle the loan on the caravan or the motorboat or the jet ski or any of your other movable assets? How much capital do you need to settle? Perhaps you got a loan against your equipment in your workshop, that maybe you own your own workshop or I don't know, mechanic service or something like that. How much money do you need to settle each and every one of those loans? Even personal loans in the form of credit cards. How much capital do you need to pay off each and every one of your credit cards? How much money do you need to pay off each and every one of your personal loans? How much money do you need to pay off any form of bank loan of any sort, size, shape, form, or description? Even store loans. I know in many countries it is very popular to have store loans, like in the case of South Africa. Classic example. In South Africa, it is very much normal practice. If you want to go and buy some clothes and you don't have the cash, no problem. Go to the store, buy the clothes, walk out with the clothes and pay for it much later. And you can simply buy it on credit with Edgar's, Woolworths, Fushini's, Truworths. There's so many different clothing retail outlets that will allow you to buy clothing on account. Likewise with furniture. Maybe you wanted to have that fancy curved TV or that beautiful new TV of any sort or description, or that beautiful new lounge suite, and you gone and bought it on credit because you didn't have the cash. How much money do you need in order to settle all of your furniture loans, all of your clothing loans, all of your whatever loans you might have, even if it's with family or relatives? Come up with a total liability. If you were to settle each and every one of your loans, even the money that you owe your family, maybe your father, your mother-in-law, whatever, maybe a friend. If you were to settle each and every one of those loans, how much cash do you need to settle each and every one of your loans? Please take a moment and come up with an amount of capital that you need in order to settle each and every one of these loans. Before I go on to the next section, let's first complete this section. So I'll give you a moment just to continue and just make sure that you come up with a figure of how much money you need in order to settle each of these loans that we've spoken about. Even if there's any other loans that I might have not mentioned, also for you to settle them. Come up with a grand total of any loan of any sort or size or shape or form. How much capital is needed? Think for yourself in your mind if you had all the capital that you need for you to be 100% debt-free, never have to worry about another bill, how much money do you need to wipe the slate clean and you never ever have to worry about another loan repayment? So right in the beginning, I've been asking you, how much do you earn per hour? Remember, I asked you, put the amount of money that you're earning on a monthly basis in your mind. The reason why I asked you is because we are so used to, and we are so conditioned to think of, when somebody asks you how much money you earn, you think about the amount of salary that you earn on a monthly basis. But we forget that that's barely has any meaning. The real true meaning of how much you've really been earning is if you take your total asset value minus your total liability, and that will give you your net asset value. If we then take how much time you've worked, so in other words, we take our net asset value, divide by the amount of hours that we've worked from start until now, that is the real true hourly rate. If we think about all of our assets minus the liability on those assets, and we come up with our net asset value, and then we go back to the very first exercise and we calculate then, and we use that figure that we worked out of the total amount of hours that we worked, and we divide the net value, divide by the total amount of hours that we've worked in order to produce the net asset value. This is the true hourly rate that we've been fairly squarely been paid. Of course, over the last 20 years, I've seen thousands of students, hundreds of thousands of students, and very few of them are ever happy with this figure. Very, very few are happy, in fact, should I say. In fact, it's the exception that's happy. The overwhelming majority, 95%, if not more, is extremely disgruntled when they do this calculation. And they're saying to themselves, is this all that my life per hour is worth? And it might be the same for you. Maybe it's not. But I suspect for most of you on the call, it might be something similar. Let me put it in another way. If I were to say to you, you know what? I'm opening a brand new business in your area, and I'm looking for people to come and work for me. Would you like to come and work for me? I am willing to pay you exactly the same amount of money that you've now worked out in this exercise. I'm willing to pay you that hourly rate. How many of you would have then put up your hand and rushed and say, pick me, I want to come and work for you at this rate? I suspect the overwhelming majority of you wouldn't. The reality is, most of you are still doing that every day of your life. Most of you are still every single day exchanging time for money. And from when you started till now, the only real true test of how much you've been paid is by calculating your true net asset value. And then you take that and divide it by the amount of hours that it's taken you. And that, my friends, is your true earning that you've been paid. I suspect many of you don't like this calculation. Rightfully so. Think about it. Excuse me. It barely makes any sense. All of us want financial freedom. All of us want finances in abundance. But it barely makes any sense. We want finances in abundance, but we're selling time, which is scarcity. Our time is in short supply. None of us have an unlimited amount of time to sell. Yet we want finances in abundance, but we're trying to get it by selling our most precious and our most scarce commodity, which is time. It makes absolutely no sense. All of us, all around the world, would like money in abundance, but we're trying to get it through selling time, and we're also trying to get that money in abundance And all we really have to sell, other than time, is our skill. And if you think about it, how many of us have truly got an unlimited amount of skill? And of course, the answer is, of course, we don't have an unlimited amount of skill. So whether we like to know it or not, this whole system is designed to create a working class of people. The financial educational system, the environment, all of which lead us down a journey where we think it's okay to exchange time for money and skill for money. At some of the other intelligent level, we all realize the worst possible way to make money is to work for it. And all of us at some level realize the best way to make money is to make money work for you. However, as much as we realize the best way to make money is to make money work for you opposed to you working for money, we do realize that at some level, but very few practice that. And I suspect it is because they've never really truly calculated how little we are truly being paid for on an hourly basis. And this is so important to understand this. When we are exchanging time and skill for money, we are on our way to a hiding second to none. There's no ways we can win this game. There's no ways we can benefit. There's no ways we can win this game because none of us has got time in abundance and none of us has got an unlimited amount of skill. All of us have limited time and limited skill. Therefore, we can at best realistically, you might not want to hear this, but we can at best realistically hope to get a rate that we are not really happy with. And it's no surprise that our hourly rates are so little when we think about the way and the model that we've used in order to produce this financial outcome. Because like I said, it makes absolutely no sense to have an expectation of money and abundance, but your medium that you're trying to get it with is an exchange of time, which is in short supply, scarcity, and skill, which is also in short supply. Doesn't matter how highly educated we are. We could be the most educated lawyer in the world. We could be the most educated doctor in the world, and we could be getting the best possible rate out of all the medical professionals in the world. It doesn't matter. There's still just so many patients that can be seen in a day. Nobody can see patients 24/7. And even if you were to be able to do that, there's still a limit to how many patients you can see. So it really doesn't matter. Either way, it's flawed right from word go. And it is simply not designed to make us win. It is that simple. Let's go a little bit beyond that. And let's for a moment talk about the financial journey. Regardless of where in the world I teach, students always come up to me and say, I want to go to financial freedom. Show me how. Tell me how to get to financial freedom. This is what I'm looking for. And my answer to them is always the same. Financial freedom is really about a financial journey. And most people fail to reach their destination being financial freedom because of two primary factors. The first factor is they're trying to take shortcuts. So many of you right now, as you're listening to me, hear me and hear me well. Think about it carefully. Over the years, how many times have you tried to take a shortcut? Try to search something on Google in the hope that it's going to make you a fortune virtually overnight. And here's the harsh reality. The more you try and get shortcuts, eventually it becomes a vicious circle and the longer it takes. And because you're going around in circles, chasing the next shiny object, but the shiny object does not produce the outcome that you're looking for. So the first part of my answer is understand financial freedom is the reward for, and hear me well today. Financial freedom is the reward for going through the financial journey diligently and patiently, and having a strategy and working that strategy hard. Make no mistake, financial freedom requires some of the other type of work, not conventional work, not having a job type of work, but it still nonetheless requires some type of effort. And financial freedom is the reward, the payday for going through that process diligently and having grown to the point, and that's where financial freedom kicks in. We can break the financial journey into different stages. Stage one is what I call financial struggle. This is unfortunately the stage where most people stay the longest in. Most people, sadly, all around the world, even reach retirement, and it's still a bit of a struggle. It is still a bit of a struggle where to get the money to pay all the bills. And it's still a heck of a consideration how to get to affordability to pay and afford everything that needs to be done. Financial stability is a state financially where if you stop working right now, regardless of where you are, regardless of how much money you have and how much money you don't have, financial stability is a financial state where if you, for some or the other reason, lose your source of income, whether it's through your business, through a job, it doesn't matter. If you were to lose your source of income right now, this very minute, if you can sustain yourself with your current living expenses, with what you've already accumulated, without you selling something, without you cashing in or selling the car or selling the house or giving up the investments or whatever, if you've already accumulated enough to sustain your lifestyle until you die, then of course you are financially independent. If you've accumulated enough money that's lying around somewhere in a bank account of sorts, or in some or the other way, where you don't have to sell your house, you don't have to sell your car, you don't have to reduce your lifestyle, you can maintain your current lifestyle. You can maintain whatever needs to be paid can be paid. If you've got kids at school, they can still go to school. If you need to buy clothes, you can still buy clothes. You can buy food. You can stay where you stay. Everything can carry on, except that if your income were to fall away and you already got enough income built up, so that if you take that income and you take every month and out of that and you pay all your bills, if you got enough to sustain yourself until you die at current lifestyle level, then of course you are financially independent. And as the word choice there says, of course you're independent, because it simply means that you're no longer dependent on the income in order to pay your living expenses. If you no longer need to earn a salary, you're no longer dependent on that income, of course, it goes without saying, you become then financially independent. The next stage is financial freedom. Now, financial freedom is a state where it's no longer about a survival lifestyle. It is now about a life of choice lifestyle. Most people, in my experience, fail to achieve financial freedom because when I ask them, what does financial freedom mean to you? They always give me a long and a beautiful story. And there's nothing wrong with that beautiful story. The only problem with that beautiful story is that it's not clear, it's not definitive. So they'll tell me something along the lines of, I don't know, let's say for argument's sake, they'll tell me, I just never ever want to worry about money anymore. Or they'll say, I want to be able to buy whatever I want, whenever I want. But what does that really mean? How do you work out a roadmap to that point? Because when is enough enough? Nobody knows. So if you are serious about achieving financial freedom, one of your first tasks is to get some serious clarity on what is your definition of financial freedom. To me, we're all different financially. We all got different ambitions and different lifestyles that we dream and fantasize of. So for me, the best possible answer is to have enough passive income coming in each and every month. But listen to my word choice. My word choice was passive income coming in each and every month without you exchanging time, without you exchanging skill, without you exchanging effort or time or anything like that. It's happening by itself passively, 365 days a year, year in and year out. You got this money coming in each and every month without you playing any role whatsoever in an active way in order to produce that income. So in other words, where you got enough investments that every month are paying you a return, and that return is adequate to sustain your desired lifestyle. Now listen carefully to my word choices here. I spoke about passive and I spoke about desired lifestyle. So what does that really even mean? I need each and every one of you to come up with a monthly figure of your dream desired lifestyle. What would that look like in terms of figures? Don't think of your dream lifestyle as in the elaborate description format. Rather think of your dream lifestyle in a rands and cent or a dollar figure format. Think about the amount of money you need each and every month coming in without you exchanging time for money, without you exchanging skill for money, without you exchanging effort for money. In other words, and also the word choice is desired. So now, right now, as you're listening to me, let me ask you a question. If you had all the money in the world, would you have still stayed in the same house? Or would you have liked a bigger house or perhaps a house in a different location? Maybe you would have liked a house right on the beach. Maybe you would like a house, I don't know, somewhere on a farm, whatever. Whatever it is, your dream home, are you truly living in your dream home? Yes or no? If our answer is no, how much money do you need to every single month pay for your dream home? So let's say your dream home is 2 million, let's just say. How much would be the installment to service that 2 million? So that will give you the figure of how much money you need on a monthly basis just for your home. Likewise, if you every single day were to wake up and today you ask yourself the question, what do I feel like doing today? Opposed to, what do I have to do today in order to earn an income? So for you to come up with your financial freedom figure, it is all about your DMI. DMI is an abbreviation that stands for desired monthly income. Desired monthly income. But with the understanding that that desired monthly income is adequate to comfortably pay for your desired lifestyle. In other words, you want to go on vacation every other month, go away for weekends, and go to the most idyllic places, travel the world, forget for a moment about the coronavirus and the travel restrictions. Let's just pretend it's life as per normal, or the old normal. And you were able, and you have enough money to go and see all the places all around the world. How much money do you need every single month to sustain your lifestyle, to send your children to the best schools, to wear whatever clothing you want to wear, shop wherever you want to shop, go and eat out wherever you want to eat out, and as often as you wish to? I'm sure all of you can relate to the example. How often has it happened in your life where you wake up on the day and it's a special day, maybe your loved one's birthday or something like that, or an anniversary, and you say to this loved one, listen, I'm going to treat you today. I'm going to take you out to your favorite restaurant. And you know in your heart and in your mind, you feel like, let's just say, the most beautiful prawns, for argument's sake. And off you go to this restaurant, and you sit down and the waiter brings you the menu. You know too well that you're dying for those beautiful prawns or lobsters or whatever it is. And then you look at the menu and you see the price of the prawns or the lobsters, and you say to your loved one, you know what? I'm not so hungry today. Why don't we have a salad to share? Because you've seen the price. So that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is it doesn't matter what the meal cost. It doesn't matter how much the prawns cost. It doesn't matter how much those lobsters would cost. Whatever it is that you feel like. If you want to be able to go and eat out wherever you so wish to go and eat out, go on vacation wherever you want to go on vacation, and go as often as you would like, and do each and everything as and when you like, as and when it suits you. How much money do you need on a monthly basis in order to sustain that? How much money do you need on a month in and month out basis to live in your dream home, drive your dream motor vehicle, and most importantly, have enough money you can send your children to whichever school you so wish to. You can live a life of choice, the life you've always dreamt of. I'm sure many of you can relate to the example. Many of you might have fantasized in the past about winning some of the other lotto or competition of sorts, and you win this big amount, or lottery of sorts, and you were to win all these millions of dollars. Think of this exercise as this lotto, and you got to just come up with a figure of how much money you would like to earn or win for you to live your greatest life ever, where money is not an issue. What would your monthly income look like? And that is what we need to work towards, your financial freedom. The next stage we can talk about is financial legacy. This is where you're no longer worried about making an income for yourself. You're no longer worried about creating wealth for yourself. It is now about you creating wealth for your children and your children's children and their children, or for maybe for some worthy cause of some sort. Maybe you feel very strongly about whatever cause that you care about deeply, and you would like to create a legacy by helping some or the other benefit or cause, or your children or their children, whatever the case might be. But the point is, it's all about you producing an income and you producing financial progress simply for the purpose of leaving a financial legacy. That's what the final stage looks like. But now, of course, if we go back and we were to start right in the beginning with financial struggle, let me give you some yardsticks. I would say one, remain in financial struggle until such point in time where you got at the very, very least 36 months of living expenses already saved up, and that money has already been produced. That money, that 36 months worth of living expenses has already been created. If you got somewhere saved away, tucked away somewhere without you downgrading lifestyle. So let's say your living expenses right now is $10,000 a month. let's just say, if you got, let's just say, 100,000 saved up, that would mean with 100,000 and your expenses is 10,000, that means you can sustain your lifestyle for 10 months without banking new money. So that means you're nowhere near the end of financial struggle. I would say that you are towards the latter part of financial struggle when you got enough money saved up to sustain your living expenses for a bare minimum of 3 years or 36 months. 36 months. So if your living expenses is 10,000 a month, if you then got 10,000 times 36, in other words, 360,000 already saved up without you having to sell the house, without you having to sell the car. If your monthly expenses is 10 grand and there's already 360,000 or more already earned, already saved up, then I would say you are starting to move in towards the latter part of financial struggle and possibly even the early part of financial stability. Excuse me. If you are then in a position where, again, your living expenses is, let's say, 10 grand a month, but you already got enough saved up, and you got enough saved up out of what you saved up, you can easily afford that 10,000 per month on living expenses without you reducing lifestyle, without you reducing expenses, still stay in the same home, still drive the same motor vehicle, still send your children to school, still go to the movies, still go and eat out, still do whatever you want to do. But you've already created enough money to sustain your current lifestyle until you die. Of course, you are financially independent. The question now is, how much money do you need for that? And the answer for that is a little bit harder. Let's say, whatever age you are now, think of your current age. And of course, I know nobody knows how long they're going to live, of course. But just for a moment, just for the purpose of a debate, think of your current age and think of how long realistically do you think you're going to live? If you think you're going to live for another 10 years or another 20 years, another 30 years, realistically, none of us know how long we'll live, but just hypothetically, if you think you're going to live for another 10 years and let's say your expenses is 10 grand a month, very simple. Then you can take the 10 grand times 12, that will give you your annual times 10. It's that simple. And that's how you can work out how close or how far you are from financial independence. Likewise, financial freedom. Financial freedom is very similar. If your desired lifestyle, your DMI, desired monthly income figure is, let's just say 20 grand a month, let's just say, and let's say you're going to live another 10 years. Okay, so you need 20 grand a month to pay for your dream home, to pay for your dream car, to pay for your dream lifestyle. It's going to take you 20 grand a month, no problem. Then you simply take the 20 grand times 12 months times 10. And that would be how much money you would need, assuming you only live for those 10 years or whatever the case might be. Of course, that's not an exact science, but that is as close as you possibly can get to doing some or the other form of calculation around what you need. That being said, the same applies for legacy. If you know your desired monthly income is 20 grand a month, and you know, doesn't matter how long you live, whether you live another 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, doesn't matter. There's enough money already earned without you having to sell. You can easily live your dream lifestyle until you die because there's already enough earned. So anything that you earn today forward, moving forward, and whatever you're going to earn next month and the month thereafter, all of your efforts are building towards leaving a legacy behind for your children or for the cause that you strongly believe in, whatever the case might be. So the question now is, how far are you from each one of these stages? That is the most crucial part. You see, when you and I, going back to the financial journey, most people fail to achieve the financial outcome because they get caught up in one of two things. The first thing they get caught up is in this lie, if you will, that, you know what, study hard, get yourself a great job, and through your great job, you'll be okay financially. It will take you to where you want to go. One day you'll earn a lot of money. And yes, sure enough, if you think of your first paycheck, your first paycheck might have been 5,000 or something like that, or 2,000, whatever. And today you might be earning 10 or 15,000. So at face value, it appears that you made huge progress. But in reality, you made no progress. In reality, you're really not all that much closer to financial freedom. Yes, the figure might have jumped up from 1,000 to 5,000 over the years, or 10,000 even. But the fact of the matter is, there's still nowhere near enough assets so that if you were to cash in on all of your assets, you can then take all of those assets, put it in an investment account, and that investment is enough to pay for your desired lifestyle. So we can do another calculation. And we can go back to financial struggle. If you take all of your assets that you've built up by now, from whenever you started working until now, if you were to liquidate all of those assets, the ones that you don't need, in other words, keep your house because you need a place to stay. But if you were to take all the other stuff, the money in the bank, the shares that you own, the cryptocurrencies that you own, whatever it is, and you were to cash in on all of those assets, plus the money that you saved up, and then you work out, okay, I've got 10,000, or my need is $10,000 a month. If I've got $10,000, I can afford to stay in my home. I can afford to buy groceries. I can afford to put petrol in my car. I can afford to pay my car installment. I can afford to send my children to school, and so on. So if 10,000 is the figure, all of the assets that you produced until now, if you were to cash in on all of those assets, for how many months will you be able to sustain that 10,000 per month if you don't earn another 10 grand? In other words, if your income were to fall away. Likewise, if you were to take the capital amount and you were to invest, if you cash in on all of your assets, and you were to invest that money into a financial institution of sorts, wherever you like to bank, and you were to put that in, how much interest will you earn per year? And then take that interest amount and divide it by 12. And that will show you, for argument's sake, your, let's say you got $1 million in assets. Let's say on the million, you earn, I don't know, 1%, 2%, 3%, 5% a year. Work out all of your assets. If you were to cash in on all of those assets, what is the capital amount you'll raise? And then if you were to invest that amount of capital into an investment, based on the annual interest that you'll earn, for how many months can you survive? For how many months will you be able to pay all the bills? Where are you on the financial struggle journey towards financial stability? How close are you to financial stability? Because financial stability is where things start making sense, where you already got enough saved up, and it doesn't matter if you're still producing an income or not, because you are left financially independent of the need to produce an income in order to sustain your living expenses. If you are at this point, that's where life starts making sense. This is where you're going to be able to start working towards financial freedom. That's where we all want to be. But for as long as we chase the one shiny object to the next, to the next, to the next, for as long as you and I are exchanging time for skill, and time and skill for money, we'll never get there. But when we start understanding that financial freedom is the reward for having a system that produces and having successfully gone through struggle to stability, and from stability to independence, and from independence to freedom, and now we're working on legacy. When we got a decent, solid strategy to take us to financial freedom, we will get there. I urge each and every one of you to think about this very carefully. For how long have you been trying to create financial freedom? Has it been the last 12 months effort for you? Has it been the last 3 years? Has it been the last 5 years? The last 10 years? For how long have you been pretty serious and very committed to the idea of producing financial freedom? And then from however long till now, how well has it worked out for you? Because you see, financial freedom is only there when you got enough money saved up and you take all of your assets and you cash it all in and you put it all in one big investment account. If that interest that you earn per year, divide by 12, whatever that figure is, divide by 12, and that monthly figure is adequate to pay for your desired lifestyle, then life will make sense. Then you start living the life you deserve. The trouble is now, of course, when you and I start working out, and this is why I, in the beginning, asked you to work out your hourly rate. So do a few calculations for me. First and foremostly, think of your monthly desired monthly income. So let's say it's 20,000. Okay, great. So you need 20,000. If you got 20,000, you will consider yourself financially free. Now, in order for you to earn 20,000 a month, how much capital do you need to have on investment so that the interest on that capital is adequate to offset this 20,000 monthly? Because think about it like this. If your desired monthly income is 20 grand, and let's say you got 200,000 in your bank account. Now with 200,000 in your bank account, so you can be financially free for a couple of months. First month, no problem. Second month, no problem. Third month, no problem, and so on. But after 10 months, guess how much you got left? Nothing. So then you're back to being broke again. So the only way to truly do the calculation is to work out how much capital you need. And this capital amount is adequate to produce that 20 grand a month. In other words, so let's say for 1 million, for every million that you have in the bank, work it out per million. For every million that you have in the bank, how much interest will you earn per year? Take that amount of interest and divide it by 12. So really your homework to work out with a coach is for you to work out how many millions do you need in the bank. If you got this amount of millions in the bank, you will earn so much interest per year. That amount of interest per year divided by 12 is so much per month. Great. Okay, now you want to earn 20 grand a month. So now you got to work it backwards to see, okay, for you to produce this amount of millions and for you to come up with 20 grand a month, that's how many millions you need in order to have that monthly figure of 20 grand. That's your homework with a coach. But not only work that out, I also need the coaches to help you work out based on your hourly rate of what you've produced realistically in the past, up until now. Based on that hourly rate, how long is it going to take you to come and arrive at the place where you got this amount of millions worked out and you got this amount of millions produced? Because if you and I do not have a game plan that can produce the financial outcome that you're looking for, why will you ever get there? Think about it like this. I can assure you with all my heart and all my being that financial freedom is the easiest thing on the planet. However, you need a plan. You need a strategy. And yes, we'll teach you a plan. And yes, we'll teach you a strategy. And if you follow that plan and you follow that strategy, I guarantee you, you will not fail. But you got to follow a plan. You got to have a strategy. You got to apply leverage and compounding. Exchanging time for money, I guarantee you, will never work. Whether it's time or money, time or skill that you're exchanging, it will never ever work. But as soon as you realize that time and skill will never work, guess what? Then we can start working back meaningful, a roadmap, almost like a GPS that will take you exactly from where you are to exactly where you want to go. So our role here on this entire 12 modules is working out a roadmap, firstly, of where you are, secondly, where you want to go. And then once we know where you are right now, and we know where you want to go, then it's very easy to work out backwards of what needs to be done in order to make sure you get there. I hope that makes sense. I can assure you, creating and becoming wealthy overnight, becoming wealthy rich is not realistic. But I can assure you, if you're going to stay the course and you're going to put in the work and you're going to put in the effort, I can assure you, you'll get there. But there's only two things that will get you there. The first one is leverage, and the second one, compounding. Those are the two fundamental tools and the only two tools that will create financial freedom. However, there is a third component to the recipe, and that is clarity. We need to know exactly, and you need to know exactly where you are right now financially. Likewise, you need crystal clear clarity on where you want to go. If you got crystal clear clarity on where you are and crystal clear clarity on where you want to go, you'll be able to work it backwards using leverage and compounding. And it's way easier than what you might think today. It's way easier than what you might think this very minute. But I can assure you, if you do the work with the coaches very diligently, regardless of whether you one of the life coaching students or the group coaching students, it doesn't matter. Whether you're doing the live coaching format or the group coaching format, it doesn't matter. Either way, in the coaching call tomorrow, you will learn exactly how to work out these calculations. And because you've learned how to work out these calculations, you'll be able to work out the next steps, one step at a time. But for now, to be clear, what I need each and every student to do for tomorrow, regardless of which format of call they're doing, with the live coaching or the group coaching, it doesn't matter. I need you to work out what is your monthly desired income figure. And then once you got that desired monthly income figure, work out how many millions you need to offset that so that your interest on that capital that you then, or how much capital is needed, so that the interest on that amount of capital can offset, as I use the example, that 20 grand. So how much capital do you need to offset the 20 grand? And then in addition to that, I also want you to work out how much more time do you have to put in doing what you've done in the past in order to come up with that amount of capital. Do you need 1 or 2 or 10 lifetimes or 2 years or 6 months? That is something we'll discover together tomorrow. But we got to start somewhere. Once we got the answer to what is your monthly DMI, your desired monthly figure, and then once you worked out for you to have that monthly figure, how much capital is needed, then we work it to the final sum. And that is how much more time do you have to sell in order to get there? And then hopefully will understand the importance of leverage and compounding. If you stay the course and you keep your eye on the ball, I can assure you, you will have, by the end of these 12 modules, for the first time of your life, you will have a workable financial outcome solution that you've been looking for all your life. You've been selling time for money for all this time, and you made very little, if any, progress. You are now, over the next 12 modules, going to discover how exactly and how easy it is, once you understand these fundamentals, how easy it is to fill in the blocks, so to speak, paint by number, if you will, how easy it is to backwards engineer the financial outcome that you're looking for. So coaches also, and all of you as students, guys, please make sure you work with a coach diligently. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, because some of you I'll see tomorrow on the coaching call, and some of you I'll only see on Wednesday on the next module. When we do the next module, I would require feedback from each and every one of you, and will tell me how much capital you need, how much lifetime you need, how many more months, how many more weeks you need to work, how many more hours you need to work. Is it achievable or is it not? And then we're going to go into the next module and the next. And before you know where you are, these 12 modules will be over and done with. But more importantly, you will find out how easy it's really always been. And for the first time of your life, you will have a real achievable game plan that will allow you to produce the financial outcome that you're looking for. I thank you for attending the first part of this Fast Start program, and rest assured that it truly is the only Fast Start program on this planet that I'm aware of. Because if you follow this diligently, in a mere 12 modules, it will change the rest of your life if you're willing to do the work over these 12 modules. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next module. Until then, please be safe, do all the social distancing and everything else that's needed. But most importantly, do not forget to be kind to one another. I will see you on the next module. Till then, stay safe.